What up? How's everybody doing on this 91st day of No Excuses 2024? Now, if you know anything about numerology, right, the number 91, you can split it from the 9 and the 1 and then the 90, right, and the 90. No, I don't know anything about any of this shit. I'm just making it up. Anyway, I was out here thinking about, as I do, like a lot of times it's about limitations, right? And how people, or I'll say for me, how I limited myself in so many ways that so many others couldn't, Like, I ask people all the time when they say that they're like put on or oppressed or this and that. I'm like, well, what can't you do that I can do, right? And it's, a lot of it is limitations from our institutions, our news sources, media, movies. And then we put our own limitations based on those false limitations, Those are societal limitations, right? They tell you, I remember back in the day when I was a kid in the 70s, and it didn't seem real, but they would say, you could be anything you want to be, right? Not my situation and the people I was surrounded by, we were all living in the projects and on welfare and stuff, and like, pretty harsh, poverty conditions. And the neighborhood was trash, the school was, all old shit. All of our textbooks were from like the 40s and 50s, But anyway, they would tell you, like, you could be anything you want to be, And I ask my kids now about in school if they say that shit, and they're like, I've never heard it. It doesn't mean they're not saying it, but they have never heard it, right? And, I hear people all the time talking about the limitations of, oh, well, you can't do this because these people are holding you down, or the men, or the women, or the this, that, the other thing. And like, honestly, you really got to take a deep look into yourself and say, in these times where I was limited in these situations that I thought I should have received, right, promotions or a job or keeping the job or money or whatever it is, right? Like, was it really my manager that was holding me back? Don't get me wrong, there are instances where you're going to run into people that may be bigoted or judge you for whatever, maybe your color or your whatever, your religion, whatever it is, right? But those people are pretty few and far between these days. They get amplified online and shit, and in the media, you hear about, oh, a racist attack this, a racist attack that, or, just anything, and I'm just using that for an example. But, you got to ask yourself, like, because I've had a lot of managers that I was like, oh, they singled me out and they didn't like me. But when I first got the job, they loved me, right? Because I was hitting it hard. I was doing everything they expected me to do because I needed that job. Usually, I'm talking about in my youth, especially, I needed that job because I wasn't paying rent, or I couldn't pay rent, and I couldn't pay my bills and this and that. And so, the job was the solution to everything. And then I got it. And like, I hit it hard, and they're talking like, oh, you got management material, you could run your own crew or whatever it was. And then as soon as I heard that shit, I settled, I settled in. And then I wasn't even hitting it as hard as I was, So not only did I settle, over a little bit of time, not that long, I started creeping downward, right? So I was just average, if that, maybe below average employee. And then, of course, a lot of the times had to do with drinking or partying too much, and, just degenerate attitude and activities, unemployed activities. And so I would quit those things in order to clean myself up and get motivated and go get a job, and then I'd get the job, I'd get a few paychecks in, pay off my money, my debts and rent and everything and bills. And then all of a sudden, I start drinking again, I start partying again, start doing drugs again. And next thing you know, you're slacking, you're missing days, and I guess stop saying, but, and that was the real reason, I wasn't living up to my potential. I remember, whoa, I remember back in the day when, I would have these kind of moments of awakening, I remember being at my house and it was a party house. Most of my houses when I lived in Boston and Cambridge were party houses. And I woke up one morning after a big, huge party, a big blowout. And I got up, I cleaned the house, and then I sat down at my kitchen table, thinking about eating breakfast. But it was like this feeling came over me that was like, what are you doing? It was like this moment of clarity. And I've had several of them in my past. And I just kind of looked at it like it was a nothing event. And now when I think about it and I look back, I'm like, wow, that was a pivotal moment. That was a turning point, or could have been a turning point in my life. And I didn't use those opportunities. It's like the muse, I talk about the muse in art, music, literature, all that stuff, right? So, or even sciences and inventing, right? It's like the idea will come into my head, and then I'll put it off, and don't do it. And then all of a sudden, bam, I'll see like the artwork or like the whatever it is, the renovation of this or buying that, whatever it is, investment, and I'm like, fuck, someone else did it because I didn't do anything with it. So it went away and it went to somebody else. That's the collective consciousness, the quantum mind, right? How we're all connected. So, when you don't, you can receive the information, you can receive the material, the lesson, the blessing, but if you're not ready to put it into action, you're gonna lose it. It's gonna move on. And a lot of the blame game for myself, I always was pointing at everybody else, not realizing that 99% of that laid in my court, was on my side of the street. My side of the street was a disaster. It was a mess. It was decrepit. And I was worried about everybody else's. I was, they're just out to get me. They don't like me because this, that, or the other thing. And really, I was just limiting myself. And, I'm trying to I'm not trying. I'm limiting myself a lot less these days than in my recent past. I definitely had a lot of great experiences and, made a lot of great friendships and, enjoyed the prosperity of the 90s and stuff in Boston. But there was always this underlying situation, this underlying, rapids. It seemed, calm sometimes, but inside I was a mess. I was a mess because I wasn't dealing with any of the bullshit from my past. I wasn't able to forgive my parents. I wasn't able to forgive those people that I wrongly accused of singling me out and taking away my prosperity or some shit when I was just throwing it away. You don't have to throw it away. I've said it before. If yesterday was a fuck up, if it wasn't a success, that doesn't mean today can't be. If your this morning wasn't a success, and maybe you acted out, or you picked up this, that, or the other thing, or fed your whatever addiction it is or disorder it is, even against your own will, you can work on that. You can work on that for the rest of the day. You can pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back at it. And don't you deserve that? Don't you deserve the chance for a wonderful life? Don't you deserve the chance for success? I mean, I feel like I deserve a chance at success. And years ago, I used to always think that I deserved that chance at success because the world owed me something, the world did me wrong. I was born into poverty. My mother was this, my father wasn't around, my stepfather was abusive, my neighborhood was violent and crime filled and dirty, and it was just, but I couldn't do anything about those things. That's fine, I get that, right? But like, the world doesn't owe me shit because of that. If anybody owes me anything because of that, it's me. I should have seen the life, and I did, I witnessed it. I witnessed drug addiction in my household, prostitution, deaths, theft, robberies, raids, police raids, all kinds of crazy shit, overdoses, extreme violence. And I went down that same path. And in a lot of ways, I went down a worse path. I got into a lot of violence, a lot of drug use. Ow. Almost broke an ankle. But anyway, I fell into that stuff. Well, I didn't fall into it. See, that's being a victim again, right? I didn't fall into it. I walked into it with open arms. It was easier to get someone to hook you up with like a quarter of Coke so that you could divvy that up and turn it into a half, and then divvy that up and turn it into an ounce, and divvy that up and, eventually get to a key or a half a bird or whatever the fuck you want to call it, a brick. The people were willing to do that, but they weren't willing to be like, hey man, this life ain't for you. You should really, there were some people that said that shit, that tried to school you. Tried to school me on like, hey, this is the wrong shit, man. This is the wrong shit. And sometimes it was people that were in the game. So I chose that route with open arms, and I'm glad I don't have to do that again today. All right, I'll talk to you later, folks. Have a great day. Day 91. Get out there, change your life.